Hello, you're listening to WKNC 88.1, and this is another episode of the Stripdown with DJ Ocean Spray. On today's episode, I am chatting with the members of the Durham-based band Dirty Flowers. So, can we start by introducing yourselves with your name and where you're from?
Uh,
Go ahead.
I'm Spencer. Uh, I'm more or less from the Triangle area.
I'm Allie, and same here.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about how this project began?
Yeah. We started this band in, do you think it was 2020 or was it 2019?
We thought about starting this band in
We
2019.
thought about starting this band for a while before we actually started. But we were in a couple of different music projects and um, didn't find the focus to start a new project until COVID hit. So I think it would have either been the very end of 2019 or 2020.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think it was just something we had talked about doing, just kind of finding a new sound. Our friend Nathan, shout out to Nathan, bought this Tascam 388 and kept it at our house. And that's a tape machine.
Uh-huh.
And we were saying we would love to start just like a tape project since it was living at our house. And I think that was sort of the concept behind starting a new thing.
And so when it comes to like your relationship with music, did you grow up musical and like kind of like how did you become interested in music and like playing instruments and stuff?
We've both been playing music since we were little kids, I guess, and then
Yeah.
played in various college bands. Allie and I used to play in a band called Blois together,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had just been in like I guess the indie rock music scene in the Triangle for a while. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it did start with childhood for both of us. We
Mm-hmm.
both started playing instruments kind of young, but I think we also both we neither of us were like orchestra people or well, you were in the school band,
No,
I
that's
guess.
right. Yeah, I was in band.
But I think we were both more in it for maybe for songwriting, or at least I was. Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
I feel like always I was into it for just like the act of creation and writing more than um like I yeah, like a more musical, like strict orchestral background or anything like that. I was never really part of that. So I think we had similar views on what we were sort of drawn to in music, um and we were both playing in different bands. What how would you describe your college band?
I played in like a couple, just kind of like fast, loud, like punk bands and
Yeah,
stuff.
and I was in a Riot Girl band
Yeah, and
when we met.
but I
And
think even before that, we were dabbling with like home recordings, even like as teenagers and stuff like that. And I
that's
think
true, yeah.
Dirty Flowers is sort of like a continuation of that as well,
Yeah,
more kind of like
actually,
homegrown.
and now, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I had sort of forgotten, but I think that's how we got to know each other, Spencer and I. We were in these other bands, and so we knew each other kind of through the music world, but we also both released bedroom music on our own. Um, and I think followed each other's like bedroom projects, which we never really made very public.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an intimate relationship to have with each other, to like know each other's solo, like more private, like exploratory
Mhm.
stuff. And it's, yeah, I think it is a huge part of how Dirty Flowers like found its sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's still what we do. We still make it at home in our like home studio. So yeah, hadn't thought about that before.
And how did the name for Dirty Flowers come about?
We stole it from it's the name of a song written by a band that we really like called Lower Plenty. Um,
It's kind of, I think it's like a nod to them more than
yeah,
theft. I think it's like we're really inspired by this band from Australia called Lower Plenty.
yeah,
And we love this song of theirs called Dirty Flowers.
yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of other bands that inspire this band, but they have like this really nice percussive element to their band. They use these like really like jingle jangly drums, and we love that about their music, and we have a lot of percussive instruments at our house, and we wanted to use them a lot. So that was kind of a nice touchstone for us.
Yeah, one of the things that we both brought to our studio, we combined all of our sort of the things we had acquired um, over the years. We combined them together into like our now like joint home studio. And a lot of it is just little shakers and like shells
Bells.
and bells
Yeah.
and things like that. Um, that we've both just kind of separately, I guess, acquired over the years. And I remember also when I heard Lower Plenty, I felt really seen because I had actually written a song called Glass Clinkin' Ice. And I had been in my head developing this idea of like making a track that was like mostly based around the sound of ice in a glass. And
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure one of the sounds they use is ice in a glass. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so getting into kind of like your songwriting, do both of you guys write for the band or and like kind of how does that process work? Like is it like, one person kind of writes one song or do you kind of like work together on things?
Um, on our record, I would say we kind of would individually write songs and then bring them to one another. I wrote most of my songs ended up on the record. Uh, and we kind of like Allie is really like um, a recording artist and like an engineer and
Mm.
helped kind of shape songs on the record. After I'd kind of like written like a few chords and some lyrics, we would kind of collaborate going from there. I feel like now we're entering a new phase where the writing process is much more collaborative, which is more fun. But on the record, it was kind of like we would bring kind of like a half shaped idea and then we would
Mhm.
work on it together.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of grown in that way. It's when you're somebody who writes alone most of the time, it's sort of hard to open up to writing with somebody. But I feel like Spencer and I have kind of found our dynamic in collaborating and writing more, and we'll be featured more on LP2 when that's out. But I think for the first record, and because it was a COVID record and was an idea that we knew we wanted to start this new project, and we are both songwriters, and so we just sort of brought the material that we had written separately together and sort of like combined it and tossed it all on the same record. And I think it is cohesive on the album. That's kind of how we selected the songs for What
Mm-hmm.
Illusions. Was sort of going through and seeing what worked together, and we ended up cutting a bunch of material. And yeah, but I think now it's more like I can bring a small idea to Spencer and he can say, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we kind of like added this guitar bit to it?" And then that opens up an entirely new portal in my brain, and I can sort of like take that new idea and like run with that. And then he says, "Oh, well, wouldn't it be cool if we like changed it here?" And like I love this part, we should do this more. I
Yeah.
have a hard time like writing choruses. I'm sort of just a person that writes like a free flowing idea. And Spencer will be like, that part is the best part and you only do it once. Like we should do that 3 times. um,
Yeah, there was a lot that didn't make it onto the record. Mostly, well, I guess we both had songs that didn't make it onto the
yeah.
record. But Allie's also a prolific songwriter and has a lot of songs, writes a lot of songs for her solo project, whereas my main focus is writing songs for Dirty Flowers. I think
try to write.
yeah.
I try to write. I just write a song and then I see where it fits.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. I'm not prioritizing anything over the other. But I do think Dirty Flowers has a specific sound, and so if I'm writing a song, I'll know whether or not it's a Dirty Flowers song.
And so when you are like kind of trying to like figure out what to write about, is it more kind of abstract ideas or like kind of based on your own experiences?
Um, for me, I one thing I really like about the record that we made is I think it was the first album I made that really wasn't written necessarily from like a first person perspective. I think when I was younger, I was writing a lot of songs that started with the word I, and they were either like based on my life or based on like a thinly veiled character that was secretly me or something. And like, and now like I listened to the album before the interview because I was trying to like kind of get in the headspace, and we almost never say the word I on the record. It's very much we're very
universal.
much yeah, we're like it is many of the songs are written from a more they deal with more like abstract, I guess, concepts and aren't necessarily first person accounts, and I think part of that was just the fact that it was written in isolation and like we were in a really peculiar headspace, as I'm sure everyone was during that time. And
yeah, an isolated but very collective headspace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had also made that observation about not using I a lot. Um it's very open. And I think that all the songs are very open to interpretation as well. But it's really moody. I think the mood is always there. And some of Spencer's songs he brought, I didn't know necessarily what they were about, but I would try to guess because I know him and I know his life. um, but yeah, I think I'm in an in between spot with songwriting. I think usually an idea will spawn or a feeling will spawn from my personal experience with something, but it can grow and evolve as I'm like exploring the song deeper, new ideas come up. And I've written some songs where the idea or emotion that spawned it is I've like moved into a completely new territory by the end of finishing the song. That's not even really there anymore.
Yeah.
It's sort of there's like a whole journey with it, and you wind up with something that um, I think must be a reflection of ourselves in a way, but is also maybe more abstract.
And so are there any musicians that you take inspiration from when it comes to creating your own music?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we both love Yola Tango. I feel like that's a band that I hear a lot. Especially we our live band, like our live set is very different from the record in that it's a full band. Well, I guess the record is full band, but
But
we
it's mostly
yeah,
mostly Spencer. He plays the drums and the bass and
yeah, the record was mostly the two of us, and with the live band we're just a little bit noisier and like louder, and we play electric guitars instead of acoustic guitars.
yeah, we
And
went electric.
yeah, exactly. And I that's a band
Sorry.
um that I think has been a huge influence on us, as well as bands like the Silver Jews and kind of these these classic like
And the clean.
the Clean. Yeah. Just great indie rock bands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that you mentioned that you recorded your album during COVID and stuff, but could you tell me a little bit about like the recording process? I know that you worked with Sluice and like a lot of the members of like Fust and stuff too. And I guess kind of like how everything came together.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of our uh, the music community that we were speaking of earlier. Um, for me, Sluice and Fust, they're all like old friends who I also met when I was in the Riot Girl band.
Mhm.
um, and so I think we've all sort of um, paid attention to each other's writing and projects over the years. And at this point, it's been like, I mean, I've I feel like Sluice and Fust are evolutions of older bands that I used to listen to, and similar members and like the same songwriters, Aaron and Justin. And I think in the same way that Spencer and I have been like developing new projects like Dirty Flowers, they've also landed with Sluice and the new version of Fust, which is like a 6-piece
Yeah.
band at this point. Um, so yeah, I think working with them, I don't know. I mean, it just feels like a very like sort of full circle um, music community sort of thing. Um, yeah. Although I don't know if you meant like we didn't work together on the Dirty Flowers record, but we have worked together on like their records.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah. And I think yeah, we're all just kind of part of this like organism. Um, and we're all, I think, hoping to like keep like this the spirit alive. Hopefully I don't sound really cliche or something, but that is how I feel about it. Especially with these two bands, I feel like we're all kind of like keeping the dream alive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're bands that we really believe in, and
Mm-hmm.
we our very first show. I mean, we haven't played many shows as Dirty Flowers. I think we've only played 3 shows, even though we've
Oh,
been a
we've played
band.
more than three.
Have we?
Yeah, it's, well, I don't know, we'll have to count.
Okay. Well, we've played very few shows, but the
Yeah,
very first one we played was the first album release.
yeah.
And so it was like really
Oh, that was
special
really
to be a part
special.
of that,
That
Yeah.
was a big part of us getting the band together, I feel like, was um or getting it ready at least, for like a live setting, because yeah, we made the record alone, and then it's you want it to translate live, and so we were looking for players, and we have some friends who we called upon, so shout out to Hunter and John, who play bass and drums with us. And um yeah, I think, yeah, we were both so honored to be asked to play the first album release, and that kind of gave us like a deadline to be ready to play a show. And yeah, I'll always remember that show. It was really special. Mm-hmm.
And so how would you, I guess, describe the music that you guys make as Dirty Flowers, or like if you would put it in a genre, like I don't know, how would you classify it yourself?
Live, we call it art rock amongst ourselves, which I think is kind of true when I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I like that description just because I almost think of Dirty Flowers more as like an art project than a band sometimes.
It's very collagey
Yeah.
and stylistic in, I think, ways that it does feel like it relates very much to like a visual aesthetic, at least for me, and I think for you too. Feels like a
Yeah. Yeah. I
an
mean,
art, like a piece of art.
yeah. And like speaking of which, our friend Olivia did our album cover, and I just thought it was so perfect, like such a good kind of visual representation of the sound, which is very much like, I mean, there's songs,
Mm.
there's songs that start on the acoustic guitar, but we really tried to make them almost like maximalistic in a way. We use a lot of instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're people who like to draw with every crayon in the box, so to speak. And there's like synthesizers and like horns and recorders and like all kinds of stuff on our record. And so it is like steeped in a tradition of kind of you know like indie rock or college rock, these bands that I talked about before. But it is also we try to take it in like different directions with different instruments and sounds and vibes, and it is collage like at times, I think, which is I think why we like to call it art rock.
Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of funny.
Mm.
But yeah, two, I think I even asked, I have a hard time with genre. And I think
Mhm.
I asked somebody once what they thought it was. What, like, if you had to, like, what does Dirty Flower sound like to you? And they were like, it sounds like sound exploration. And it is, it's like, it's songs. At the heart, it's songs. We start every song with usually acoustic guitar and like a scratch vocal of some kind. So there's lyrics. But then what sort of comes around that? I mean, in the end, not the acoustic guitar isn't always the main thing. By the end, the main thing could be like this weird septivox sound that we love, or like, yeah, whatever other weird sort of thing we've come up with. A weird like in the box sound that we made out of a harmonica that we like ran through a granular synthesizer and um like threw a ton of reverb on or something. um and I think in mixing the record we really spent a lot of time trying to like find moments for sounds to bubble up and then kind of decay away and then maybe like come back later. And so um yeah, I don't know, I digress, but I sort of forgot the question. Sorry.
Yeah, one of my favorite things on the album is like there was one song we were just having trouble with, and I was like, it just like needs something, and we like threw in this sample of this child. It's like it's an interview of like this child from like the 19 probably the early 1960s or something, and he had been given LSD as some sort of experiment, and like he's being interviewed, and this is just on YouTube. And I remembered seeing it like a long time ago, and so I just like searched for it, and we found it, and we like took all this audio from it and like manipulated it,
Threw
and
a
it just
ton of delay on it.
yeah, and I just liked the way it felt. Like it was just this
Mm-hmm.
weird thing that kind of like completed the song.
Yeah, it filled the space. It's been a fun way. That's a great example. That's on the song vessel. And I love what that added. And I feel like it's really been freeing to leave space and think what could happen here. And it doesn't have to necessarily be um, one of the more classic choices. It could be anything. It could be our cat feeder.
Yeah.
I just heard the cat food
Yeah.
trickle down and I'm like, oh, we should put that on the next record. um yeah.
And so do you guys plan on releasing more music as Dirty Flowers soon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can even say about it. I mean, not like
I think you can say
we're gonna
stuff.
be on a compilation. There's gonna be a new song this summer that comes out as a part of a compilation. And then we're working on a new record. We tend to work pretty slowly, and I'm okay with that. But you know,
Sorry, it's probably my fault. Is that what you
no,
said?
no,
Oh, okay.
oh my gosh, I think it's mostly my fault if anything. But
Okay.
um yeah, so there again, like I think of it as a long-term kind of art project. So I suspect we'll always be working on Dirty Flowers in some way, whether that's like a record or like I don't know, focusing on like making a cooler live show or something like that. But there will be more music in the future.
And we've started it.
Yeah, we have started
We've
it.
started
Yeah.
it, but we do our our process is pretty slow, and it was with the first record too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it took a long time to make that record.
Yeah, and I think we're learning the process because that was the first record. We were sort of toying with a lot of different things, and we had to like find the place that felt true to the project. And now we sort of have a blueprint from the first record. And so I think with the second record, maybe I don't know, I feel like we have our process dialed in now. Um, so we can move a little bit quicker. I'm sure that will be true with every record, really, especially if we use the same set of tools, because it won't be part of the process to like figure out how to use the tape machine and do
Yeah.
all this stuff.
Yeah, we'll probably never be the type of band that releases like a great album every year, you know, but I think we'll always be working on music.
Yeah, agreed. Because I think we also spend a lot of time in the songwriting process. um, and even more so now that we've developed like a collaborative method, sort of. I think, yeah, we're pretty considerate about the songwriting, and that takes time. So yeah, while we've started recording the next record, we're also still writing songs that will be on the next record too. Yeah.
Yeah. The listeners are going to take a quick break to listen to Symbol off of Dirty Flowers 2022 album What Illusions.
A coyote in the road, a bone buried in the loam. Ghosts are there when no one's looking. Your heart's twin is something you can't afford not to believe in. Something you bought sight unseen, a spider web suspended in a sunbeam. There are times when you feel everything, a cracked sidewalk and a seashell, oil spills and poison wells. The symbol and the thing itself, they mean everything, they mean nothing, they mean anything now.
And so kind of like more into, I guess, your like personal like music listening kind of stuff. What kind of artists or and genres do you tend to listen to in your free time?
I tend to listen to like witchy women, um, like crooning about magical things. I listen to a lot of PJ Harvey, and a lot of Kate Bush, and Joanna Newsom. And um, those are probably like my three pillars of people that I am always listening to and like always watching live performances of. And um, yeah, just like really staying in touch with their work and um, feel like very, there's like a difference between like listening to something and then listening to something and being like, I want to do a version of this. And I think with those three, it's sort of, I like feel like the I
They're
don't know.
masters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just feel the like all of the power is like reaching out to me, and I'm like, I just want to like, yeah,
You also grew up listening to mostly country music.
that's true. Yeah,
And we
yeah,
both really, really love country music.
yeah. That
Uh,
was all I grew up listening to.
yeah.
Specifically like outlaw country, um, from the 70s, I think is baked in for me and always will be. And I'm glad that more people seem to be like loving it nowadays. I think it's like found a place. There was a period of time where people were more resistant to the country music, I think. Do you think this is true?
Yeah. I
Maybe
mean,
maybe just indie rock, maybe the indie rock world wasn't as country focused, but it feels pretty um at this point it like it's wide open. You can kind of like draw from whatever.
I think like growing up in the 2000s and stuff, country music was it was so much of like what was played on like mainstream country radio. Uh I mean a lot of it was bad, and some of it was good, and I think people are rediscovering it now, but I think there certainly is like a resurgence of country, which I think is great. Yeah. So
Yeah, and we were working kind of like right on the brink of that resurgence. We were working at a record store called Nice Price Books. Maybe you know it because it's
Oh my
across the
God.
street from NC State.
I love Night
Um,
Price.
Me too. Yeah, and
yeah,
I
shout out
worked.
to
Shout
all
out to
those
Nice
guys.
Price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked there for like 6 years, and Spencer worked there for like a year or so too. And um, uh, like a theme there is country music. They're always, specifically Enoch over there is like always playing country records, and um, so I think between that and then just like my family still only listening to outlaw country to this day,
Yeah.
um is kind of like got that going in me again. And I do hear it too when I'm writing. I can hear when I'm influenced by like, I can hear the influence, I guess. And
Yeah. I think we really appreciate the sound of older records,
yeah,
from like the 60s and 70s. Like,
70s records sound amazing.
yeah.
They're
And
so like smooth and warm.
even some of those like early Velvet Underground records, which don't even necessarily like they sound crazy, but we love that stuff too.
I would I would love to make a record that sounds as good as any Velvet Underground record.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I could die happy if
Yeah,
I've
seriously.
achieved that. It's just it feels, sometimes I listen to those records and I feel like they're like the pinnacle of good sound. They're just so, it's kind of hard to explain. Sometimes the mixes are weird and
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, they're like the choices are weird and you feel like it was almost done quickly. Like did they just like throw up the faders and say, okay,
Yeah.
this is good? But they're so interesting and still so just, I don't know how to describe it other than say warm, which I know that's kind of like a annoying word. I
That's
feel
so
like
true, though.
it's maybe overused, but only because yeah, it's true. When something feel like sounds warm, it just like feels good. Um, yeah, I think that's part of the Dirty Flowers hope is to keep the like the tape sound and the like homey sound at the forefront of any of the records that we make under this project. Anyways, yeah.
And is there a like favorite venue that you guys have performed as Dirty Flowers in?
Hmm. Favorite
Well,
venue?
we talked about the first show we ever played, which was with Fust at the Pinhook,
Yeah.
which obviously we love the
Love the
Pinhook.
Pinhook.
But also shout out to Nash Street Tavern
Oh
in Hillsboro.
yeah. Yeah, that was a fun show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's just like a little bar in Hillsboro that we really love and has a small stage. And yeah, we played a show there with some friends of ours. And
And Rainbow was running sound.
yeah,
And then at the end of the night, she handed us, unbeknownst to us, we didn't know this was happening, but she handed us a CD and she was like, "Hey, I just recorded your set." It's really cool. We have like a CD of our live show from Nash Street, which is I'll treasure that.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
great venue.
Yeah.
But there's a lot in the Triangle, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Pinhook is probably my most frequented venue, I think. Um, yeah, and I guess and then Hopscotch we played Kings,
that's
and
true.
that was
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah, we've played some amazing shows at King's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned the album art earlier because that's like my favorite question to ask musicians, kind of like the story behind their album art because I think it's really interesting. So you mentioned that one of your friends created the image for What Illusions? And kind of like did you ask her to do that or like did you see her art and you wanted to like use it for it or like kind of like how did that come about?
I think we both just really liked Olivia's style, and I reached out and asked if I could commission the album art, and she sent us several pieces.
At
And
the time she hadn't done album art before. I think we had just seen her um collage pieces, right?
I think so, yeah. Um, and yeah, she sent us several images, and I think we used all of them. Like so, a couple of them we used for like singles artwork, and then we picked our favorite for the album art.
It was tough to pick too because she sent us three, and I think we kind of vacillated on which one should be like the main cover. Um, I still think the one we chose is like the most reflective of the record. But yeah, it was tough to choose because I was really blown away by how much. Did you just send her a track or did you send her the
Yeah,
record?
I sent her. I think I sent her two songs, and yeah, a few months later, she shared a Google Drive with the images, and then eventually like mailed us the physical pieces, which we have at our house, which is really cool.
Yeah, we have them hanging framed in the studio. But yeah, that was one of those moments. I hadn't done that a lot prior. I think in all my other projects I had made the album cover or like my friends and I had made the album cover. It had always been a thing that I had been a part of. And this was the first time I like let that go as a part of the process and like kind of given it to someone else, which was Spencer's idea. And I like kind of showed me the beauty of collaboration in art in that way to receive that and feel like somebody took in your work and ran it through their filter and sort of shows you like in a very visual sense what they hear. um it was really, yeah, I was amazed by what she came up with and I felt like it just hit the nail on the head too with the sound. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so I also think it's really interesting to ask musicians if they go to concerts very often. And so do you guys go to concerts often? And if you do, have you been to any good ones recently?
Mm.
Well, one we didn't go to,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm kind of sad.
We were
Is
just talking before the interview. We were like, oh, we didn't go to it.
yeah, our friends in this band, Lonnie Walker, who are, they're based in Raleigh, and they had their album release at King's Saturday night.
Yeah.
And we should have been there, but we
Yeah.
weren't.
I have had a hard time. If I don't put it on my calendar, that's the point I'm at in life. It has to be on my calendar, or else it just, something else. I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And I try to, for a while there, I was working live sound. And so one of the fringe benefits was you could go, even on your night off, you could go to whatever show was happening. And I was working at like a bunch of different venues at the time. And so I would just go to show every night, like not even knowing what it was. I would just be like, oh, I'll go check this out. Why not? But that was back when I had more energy, and that was pre-COVID, which I think we are all maybe affected by COVID in some ways. We're not going out quite as much, or at least I'm not. But I still do prioritize going to shows.
Another show that we did go to because Allie was playing it, but I guess we would have gone anyway, was the Gibson and Touton album release.
Yeah,
at
that was
Perfect Lovers in
amazing.
Durham.
Yeah,
That was one of my favorite shows I've been to
I loved seeing
recently.
that band.
Yeah.
That was their first full band set. And yeah, I'm so glad we were there to see it.
It was awesome.
It was so good. Yeah, that was a good show. I'm trying to think what else I've been to lately. I'd have to, what I would have to do is pull up my calendar, and then I could tell you.
We also went to Eno Fest
Uh-huh.
recently, 4th of July weekend. We try to always go to that. So yeah, probably don't go to as many shows as we'd like to, but
Well, next week we're gonna go to Jessica Pratt. Did you know that?
oh yeah. So yeah, we try to make
At Hall
that.
River. But yeah, I feel like
Are you looking at your calendar?
yeah, I am. It's just the way that I know. Just curious.
Another one of my favorite shows that we went to, I guess this was a while ago now, but Sluice did a Bruce Springsteen cover set, which Allie was a part of.
That's legendary.
Yeah, it was so good.
So good. It was so much better than it should have been, even.
Oh
You
my
know what I
gosh.
mean? Like for a one-off show.
It was
Like very impressive.
it was as if they had been practicing for like months
Yeah.
and months. It was
Yeah.
like an ensemble, like different singer for every song.
Yep.
And it was just fantastic.
So
Yeah.
good. And just like Justin's true calling, I think, in a Bruce, as a Bruce, sort of, I don't know what you call that when you are being the person. What's that called?
Impersonator. Oh, Bruce Springsteen. Yeah, he should. Yeah, just focus on that.
He could do that for a living, honestly. Yeah. Also, Magic Tubers and Weirs played a set at Pinhook. We love the Pinhook. Not too long ago, and that was a really great show. And yeah, the Magic Tuber set made me cry. So good.
We're really like, yeah, I feel like we're really kind of spoiled here in the Triangle. There's great bands everywhere playing all the time. So
it's true. Yeah.
And where could the listeners find you guys on like social media, Bandcamp, Spotify? Like, is it all just Dirty Flowers or?
We're on Instagram as Dirty Flowers.
Dirty
_ flowers.
We had to get in line there.
And we have a Bandcamp that's it's under we have our own record label. Humble brag. And it's called Halloween on Raspberry Hill. And our Bandcamp is Halloween on Raspberry Hill Records.bandcamp.com. And there you'll find the Dirty Flowers record as well as Allie's record.
Yeah, my solo record.
And hopefully other records someday.
Yeah, we're just getting started with the label. So we kind of practiced putting something out with our own music to see how difficult it is and how much time it takes and what's required in that part of the process. And it's super DIY, so there's not a lot of like promotion or anything that goes along with that. We just post about it on Instagram mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think hopefully we'll put out some stuff from more people in the area, plus our other records that we make. And we're on Spotify and Tidal and all that stuff. We're even on some weird stuff. I just signed up with DistroKid. That's like how I found to put out stuff with the label. And it like popped up with a bunch of things. And I was like, Deezer? Like, have you heard of that? Like some weird streaming platforms that I had never heard of before in my life. And it was like, do you want to like upload to all of these? And I think I asked you. I was like, should we upload to like all of these weird ones that we don't know? And you were like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, so you can find us on Deezer. That's
but yeah.
DEEZER.
And then because we do everything ourselves, we also, at least when we were first on Tidal, we were like popped up under some other guy's profile because the name, I think he had the same name. And so you might find our record under somebody else. They might have fixed it, but oh, and then I remember spending an afternoon trying to figure this out, but I put us on YouTube Music. Like it uploaded us, but I had to somehow connect it to our Gmail or something. It's
weird.
It's
like
weird
releasing
these
music.
days.
Yeah.
But we also make, every time we put something out, we make a batch of cassette tapes, and we just do like a limited run of that. So for this record, we made, it was the first one we had put out, so I think we only made 25 tapes, which we were sold out of. But we might do another batch. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been another episode of The Strip Down with DJ Ocean Spray. Thank you so much for listening. And please check out Dirty Flowers. And I will send the listeners off with one more song today, and that is Mystery Wheel. So thank you so much for listening.